All right, Mike here with that'sgoodenough.me.com. We're doing our Who's Zoomin' Who series. I'm with Bryce Case Jr., better known as YTCracker. Very excited to have you as a guest today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Just another day of working from home. But I've looked forward to this all day. So I have this I'm going to try to keep it short. But in 2005, it was the first time that my shitty punk band went on tour with a laptop.
Uh-huh.
Our drummer had one. And so we made a conscious effort of taking all the CDRs that we were getting from bands we were playing shows with. And we got mixed CDs and stuff from fans and stuff too. And we would put them on the laptop. Oftentimes, we didn't have internet access, so we didn't have any tags or anything. So we didn't, it was just unknown artist, unknown name. And we would put it on, I had a Creative Nomad that had 40 gigs of space on it, which at the time was like fucking massive. I think it was a $400 thing. Yeah. And one day we were listening, we had a playlist of just the songs from the CDRs called Tour Mix. And one day we heard YTCracker, and we still don't know to this day how it got handed to us, because we didn't play a show with you, but somebody gave us this blank CDR that had your Nerd Rap Entertainment record on it. And so we listened to it that entire summer, fell in love with the concept, the idea. And then my guitar player was opening a styrofoam cooler and dropped my Nomad into freezing cold water while it was plugged in. So fast forward many, many years, and children and marriages and all sorts of things. I was on Spotify, and I got a suggestion after listening to some questionable rap music to check out this artist, YTCracker, who had the song The Link. And I said, wow, that guy's still fucking doing this, because I had forgotten the name of the group. So let's talk about, and more so, The Link itself, I really liked. It was kind of a revisiting of the Nintendo style stuff. So it was just this perfect storm when I discovered it. I wanted to talk about that gap of time when I have no idea what you were up to.
Okay. Well, The Link even is like by now kind of old. I think it's like about a decade split, but I mean, there was this genre of rap music called Nerdcore hip hop that kind of that I was making like music in this genre, but it hadn't really been codified yet. And like right around the time when like you would have been touring and stuff is there was this little bit of kind of nerdcore fever that attacked the internet and like press media and stuff, and they were kind of fascinated with it. But the obsessions, like there was a lot of kind of substandard music coming out of the genre. So for a while there, it was kind of unpalatable. Like it seemed that it was just a niche, that was kind of academic or something like that. But I just like loved making music. Primarily though, I think that I like making music about computer hacking and stuff. And that's pretty much where I found a lot more of my, I would say, later successes or something. That it's kind of like my sub niche of nerdcore or whatever is like this kind of hacker core music where I just rap about things that are evil on the internet and my association with them or something. It was always kind of like that, but that there were periods in my career where I think there was a lot more pandering to like some like a video gamey audience or an anime audience or something like that. But the thematic consistency, I think, has been computer hacking or whatever.
Yeah. That was something that turned us all onto it right away, was that the writing, it actually made sense on a computer. I'm a big fan of Mr. Robot, that television show. I came to find out that Rami Malek, or whatever his name is, he had to learn how to use a keyboard when he was training for that role, because he's such a baby that he had never used a computer keyboard before, let alone understood any of the shit that he was going to have to try to represent on that show. But yeah, that's great. And I saw that, kind of digging back and saying, okay, what's this guy been up to? I saw you did a lot of material with MC Lars and stuff like that, which was fun to visit. But there definitely was a time that it was just an Aqua Teen Hunger Force nerd crowd kind of feel. Just generally, I would say most like white guy rappers even for a while. Okay. But yeah, the link itself, the song spoke to me in many ways as a computer programmer, as an IT guy. I love the shout outs to elder hackers and the younger people that are just picking it up. So by no act, but Spotify's algorithm, I was handed that song and jacked. I'm sure you're proud of that earlier Nintendo stuff, but I'm sure you kind of shake your head at it a little bit too, as does anybody that hones their craft.
Yeah. I appreciate like the lo-fi-ness of, but it's really weird now because a lot of that, it's a little hard because I know kids now that are in middle school and high school that are app developers, and like now they're the cool kids, like they're as popular as like the jocks were or something. So this whole kind of computer geek hardship narrative that was in a lot of my older stuff, we finally like rose above the whatever, like the fake oppression or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, like there's definitely more of a nerd's world like in today's just how things are. It was like being ahead of your time back then, but now it's like the kid who's good at computers as a Twitch streamer, they're no longer a dork. Like there's this whole like positive community now built in there. So getting bullied just because you're good at computers isn't something that's necessarily happening anymore. So I think that kind of is that we won the war, but now it kind of makes a lot of those songs slightly irrelevant because they don't really make any sense in today's context. But again, I guess I said you got to know where you came from to know where you're going or something.
Yeah, but that is what's very interesting about it, is that in a lot of ways you were kind of a pioneer for this ideology of like the popularization of the nerd and retro gaming. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was this very obscure chunk of people that thought about nostalgia and all of that way, which I wanted to segue into. I immediately, started devouring your catalog after discovering that song a couple of years back, and Introducing Neals had just come out. That album is fantastic. That to me is like Deltron 3030 level atmospheric. Like you've painted this entire universe. I wanted to talk about the production of that record, and just you were talking about Bitcoin, you were talking about net neutrality. These were topics that weren't really, unless you're highly political, you're not having these conversations at the dining room table in 2014 when these songs were coming out. So let's kind of talk about where you were once ahead of the curve again.
That project was, I was just like manically inspired. That year was just insane. I don't know. It was almost like I just had this whole concept that it was like in the beginning of 2014, it just like started to really boil up in my head, and like just the universe and stuff. And I haven't had a real bolt of creative lightning like that since, but just the aesthetic, and like I just obviously a big fan of the 80s cyberpunk type stuff. Synthwave was sort of barely kind of bubbling up. I'd gotten a hold of Mitch Murder to do a track on that album, like prior to the Kung Fury mania and stuff that had happened around that time. But yeah, I actually have a sequel to that album that's been done for a year that I haven't released for some stupid reason. By the time I release it, everything, because it's got some prescient stuff as well, but it's not as Introducing Neals was really nuts because while I was writing it, there was just these things that would pop up in the news that were just so like on the nose with what I was like saying, and I was like, you know, you get that paranoia, like, are they listening to me? Is this like, are they trying to like use this as a manual type thing? But yeah, I think that's my magnum opus. I don't even know if I'll ever be able to top that album. It was very lofty ambitions that I had, you know, because I was animating the entire project, wound up losing a lot of money. Like it's these passion projects, they kind of wind up being that I do get vindicated in some ways, because obviously my fan base will come back to me and be like, oh, you know, you said this, you know, X years ago, and this is amazing that's happening. But I don't think that I have I have a very devoted, smaller fan base, but at large, like the mainstream exposure, I haven't really found it, and I haven't really sought it either. But you know, it's just weird, because that album it's insane. Like, I'm really proud of it. But I don't I thought it would have resonated with, I guess, the general public a little bit more than it did.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, not to like butter myself up, but that was you know, part of giving up on touring and stuff like that is this moment of being like, so we got the product and we sound good. We've been doing this long enough to be confident in ourselves. All we got to do is get them to fucking listen, you know, and there's nobody there to listen to it. So I would feel that way. The fucking Rototom shit on Night Terror, for example, like I can't tell you how many people I've shown that song to, and they've just been like, this is awesome.
That's cool.
Remind me to listen to this later, and I'll forget to.
Yeah.
In 2021. But yeah, really good record, really good concept. And yeah, this 2014 was when politicians were arguing on TV whether or not net neutrality was a bad thing.
Yeah, right.
Like, so am I for being against it?
Yeah, exactly right. What does this exactly mean? And now, I mean, it's still like a debate, and you know, it's nuts. But I think that more people know about it now. I don't again, the part of the nature of the music that I make is I understand. MC Frontalot one time we were in a hot tub. It was me and Lars in front, and we were like, you know, what do you want to do with this music thing? And MC Lars is like, you know, Mr. Wholesome, and he's like, I just want to like have a good time and, you know, play music in front of people. And you know, my ambitions at the time were to blow up. Front though, he said something like, I want to cultivate a fan base that's worthy of my approval, or something. So ever that just curating, you know, the people that listen to your music and deem them worthy enough of your listenership or something. And for some reason, ever since that moment, that stuck with me, that I think it's more important to just make the music that I want to, and not like the music that I think other people want. And I've been very fortunate that it's not I could probably sustain a living off touring at this point in my life. I have enough fans that are in different places, but I would not live as awesomely as I do. Computer hacking just pays way too much. So there's no way that I would live just a very modest existence, you know, if I was just full-time touring musician type thing. And yeah, I like being able to kind of do it as a side hustle. I don't think I ever really seriously considered doing it for a living, because every musician I know that is on the grind in this mid tier, like you said, it's just it's grueling. It's not the funnest. And, you know, you get, you know, I have an 18-year-old daughter now. She finally, you know, is, I guess now would be the time to start doing it, because I don't really have that many responsibilities, but yeah, life happens too. So it's
for sure. Yeah. No, and even just taking myself back to 2005 and thinking about my creative nomad. So I mentioned that we had a laptop on that tour. You know how we checked our tour dates on the tour before that? We went to the fucking public library. So I had 25 library cards for every city that we stopped in. You know, it was stupid.
That's awesome. Actually, that's super cool.
No, it was really, made me appreciate libraries a lot more. But yeah, there's just I don't think that I could live with that kind of uncertainty on that many wood floors. As I'm a year younger than you, so like you know how backs work when you're in your late 30s. But yeah, no, I had a note here because I don't know where it was when I saw it, but I saw some of the animated introducing Neals stuff, and I saw some kind of cranky language from you somewhere about how much it costs to put it all together.
Yeah, what was funny is there was a huge investment that was in Bitcoin at the time. That, I mean, in today's money would more of like, triple paid for everything or whatever it was. But that Bitcoin would, like, right around the time that album was coming out, there was a lot of commitment that I had from these other companies to help invest in the project. But Bitcoin had a crash, like, which at the time, again, is like a few $100 type thing. But a lot of people were strapped. And so some of the people kind of pulled back on their commitments and everything. But it was this perfect storm of things that happened that I had everything really ready to go. So it's partially self-funded. I had kind of, investors in that regard. But yeah, it was, the whole undertaking, was expensive, but that shouldn't really matter. Like, in the name of art, like, just, do it. But it's probably something I'll wind up finishing eventually when I get the time. The studio that actually did the initial animations has since closed down, and I lost a lot of the original cells. It's sort of unfortunate, but yeah, I still have a vision for it, and maybe like when I finally get around to releasing the sequel, I'll I'll kind of come back and like revisit some of the art.
When you mentioned, you mentioned that by the time the sequel might come out, everything will have already came and gone, but maybe it'll be retro by then.
Yeah, true. It's like the second one deals with like deep fakes and all this other like kind of new. But it's a prequel actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so it takes place like when Neals is just first like getting his feet wet as a developer and joining a startup, and it's a cute idea. And then the aesthetic there is more like 90s hip hop. Like, it's kind of
sick.
So instead of like the 80s retro, it's more of a like a Wu-Tangy type throwback. But again, I really like it too, but it doesn't hit as hard as Neals does for sure. And don't mean to talk shit on my own work, but it's just more different. But yeah, I don't know why I haven't popped that out yet. Again, it's been done for a year and I've just been like sitting on it.
What's a Nice Guyman doing on that prequel? Is he like an Ivy League school or something?
He's not even in this one. Like, Skip Turner makes an appearance, the news guy, but yeah, for the most part, it's kind of a regular new cast of characters, I guess you could say.
Cool. Now, just to kind of close the door even harder on this ideology of modern government involvement in the internet, I kind of wanted to just get a quick take from you on this whole GameStop thing.
Well, I've been like, so I made a decent amount of money on the first run up. I paper hands, well, not paper hands, but I mean, I did, like, I took some winnings in the casino, but I still have a few shares of it. I think that obviously just being from the internet, and I'm watching this saga unfold the way that it has. It's just really interesting because there is a lot of intelligent people that are doing like this due diligence, on the situation. And that guy, DFV, the Roaring Kitty, Keith Gill, just that I can't like stress enough just how baller, like, just it's like almost like Babe Ruth, like doing that, calling the home run, and it happened. Yeah. I'm sure he didn't imagine that it would happen, this crazily, but it's just one of those things where, you know, the idea is like a virus type saying, and he had so many naysayers in the beginning, you know, just telling him how stupid he was, and it's one of those just underdog perseverance stories. But what I do notice too, it's like the net neutrality thing, where when I watched the original hearings, they a lot of the narrative was about like Citadel's pay for order flow. They were completely missing the point of the discussion. It wasn't, they weren't really talking about the hedge funds, you know, using all these nefarious tactics to outsmart the retail investor, but they were more concerned about this, you know, just the minutia of these other systems that were there's a few representatives or people who question that got it right, but I just, that in this information age, it's very, very hard for people to hide things. You know, the more transparent that things become, you're going to get people that are able to, you know, internet sleuth with high functioning autism and just ruin your life. So yeah, but like I said, it's been a saga that I've been very watching, and you know, again, I don't see it as this gigantic wealth transfer, you know, the Occupy Wall Street, you know, rise up type thing that some people are making it, but it is a very interesting like case study, I guess, on that, you know, the leveraging the tools of the stock market against itself type thing.
Yeah. When I grew up in a small town, so I have these like really weird memories of, you know, being in a bar and going to go get a soda or something and overhearing like the three like rich white business owners in my small town all pretending that they knew anything about stocks.
Yeah.
But, and even just as a child, just being like, no, you guys are just fucking wealthy and your parents are wealthy. And like, you know, you don't know what you're looking at on the screen.
Yeah.
You just have enough money to make more of it. So I was pleased just to see this narrative on Reddit of people that like, I was like, these people are great. These people are doing to these stupid rich white people is amazing.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that, you know, it's not this swarm of anonymous masks that's going to change everything at the end of the day. But
totally.
But speaking of changing the world, I wanted to touch on your 1999 hacking of the NASA flight website. I think there were maybe 39 or 40 other websites that you had hacked for the greater good as a child. So let's hear the story about this shit.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the time, obviously, you know, I guess one of the themes we've been talking about is sort of being ahead of the curve or something, but there wasn't a whole lot of internet really back then, obviously. But that I was like, I grew up like with war games and sneakers and, you know, just crazy movies like that, where obviously computers were the linchpin of government operations and things. So I found it very weird that being just a high school kid at 17 or 16 to, you know, in my spare time, I'm just hacking the government and being able to break in their systems. And so if I was a dedicated threat actor from, you know, Russia or China or some, you know, whatever, who was the flavored terrorist of the month at the time, it struck me as odd that, you know, we, you know, are investing like a lot of money in our infrastructure. And now it's funny because here it is, whatever, 20 years later, and it's the same, people are saying the same shit. Like, why aren't we protecting our infrastructure? Like, our nation's vulnerable to cyber attack. And so, yeah, at the time, like, I was basically just kind of committing web graffiti, because I was into hip hop and stuff. So I was doing the same shit just online. I would just replace the front page of the website with my own cute text and graphics and stuff. But I wasn't trying to undermine the government anyway, but I was trying to draw attention to the fact that, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit ridiculous that a high school student with spare time is throwing eggs at the establishment type thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. No, I was Yeah, as far as I went, I took the White House Gov website, and then I learned how to like view source. And so I just saved a copy of White House Gov on all the multimedia computers in our high school, and like turned the American flags upside down and shit. Like, so I thought I was a badass. I was a poser. You were doing some real cool shit.
It's okay. Like I think everybody, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I started out hacking as a poser. Like I think it sort of is one of those things that just seems like really cool. But yeah, the more you pose, then the more you realize you're starting to do real shit, and then eventually it just comes out that way. But yeah, I mean, for sure, when I was first starting into hacking shit, I was a total toy. Like I'm like reading texts, I have no idea what the fuck I'm reading. I just I'm thinking I'm way cooler than I am, and then eventually finally graduate to doing some cool shit.
Hell yeah. Now your parent, like, so your parents you had mentioned your parents were both computer users, and that's one of the reasons you were able to get into it so early. It's just one of the reasons I was, I had a household computer when I was very young. How did they react to all of this?
Well, so like I said, my mom, like she had done computing in high school, but my dad was actually an engineer, but he worked for a defense contractor at the time, and he was kind of worried about his clearance and his job and shit. But is really funny because a lot of his coworkers thought it was actually pretty cool, what had happened. My dad still to this day, he saved the business cards of the agents that came to the house and everything. But I think he was pretty mad. Like I don't, he wasn't so super happy with me, but at the same time, I don't know that it's at least it's one of those crimes that is intelligent enough that like at least your kid isn't stupid or whatever. It's a respectable crime in some ways. But
that's what's funny. It's as you said, you were just throwing graffiti, but like on paper, broke into a government website sounds really bad.
Really amazing. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. But it's probably like life imitating art type thing. I growing up in Colorado Springs, that's like where war games, NORAD is there and stuff. And so there's a lot of probably just, I was informed by the media too. So, they always blamed video games for violence. Maybe they should blame hacker movies for my existence. But yeah, I had a lot of fun.
No, that's fantastic. I see. I have these weird memories. We grew up with like a Macintosh Plus. Like that's like a white whale for me is to score one, just so I can like use the text editor to write songs, and then like take a picture with my phone when the song's finished or something. But so I remember my dad was a journalism professor, so like I knew what Nirvana was and stuff. So like my dad's students thought I was cool, like this cool little elementary school kid, and so they would give me floppies with weird ass games that they were exchanging, that I didn't know. I don't know where they came from. I think some of them had mild, pixelated nudity and stuff in them. But I think about those games a lot because I'm never going to see most of them ever again because they existed on this disc, and who the fuck knows where that came. Let's move on. I want to talk about Nerdy South, your record label. I don't know how active it is. It was Wikipedia worthy.
It still is. It's still around. I mean, it's still like it's incorporated in Florida. Right? Like it's just kind of an imprint. But there was a period of time. I said during that nerdcore kind of boom in the later part of the 2000s, where I had a few other artists that I was kind of farm teaming, handling all their advertisement, pressing their albums, doing all that type of stuff. But eventually the same, like things now, it's just to a point where, you can get TuneCore or what's another one, like DistroKid or something that rather than have to run the accounting and stuff for a label, and pay out these other people, I just gave everybody their shit back or something. It's like it was mainly just me doing an altruistic turn for the nerdcore genre. But yeah, currently it's just basically my stuff. It's just a play on the Dirty South
Yeah.
thing. So
Got
yeah.
it. And it was added to Wikipedia as a giant flex from somebody that obviously really cares about you. So that's notable.
I can live with that.
So I wanted to touch on just I know you're not like super active as far as like gigging and touring, but just kind of what you've been up to over the last year with COVID and stuff. I caught I caught your live stream where you did it was mostly DJing, but you did the old school headphone microphone trick, which I was like, cool. But yeah, what have you been up to as an artist?
So Deadmau5 and I are releasing a single pretty soon. And like he's been playing it out a lot at his shows, and it seems to be pretty well received. Generally, like my schedule the last few years and stuff, I haven't gone on, like, it was funny because 2020 I was actually going to go on a proper tour. I think I was going to try and just hit a bunch of cities like we did in the past, but yeah, the COVID thing is what it is. But yeah, I just love like I'm like a weekend warrior. Sometimes I just like going to these like conventions and stuff, and I play out there. But this year is probably going to be a little bit better. I got the first shot of the vaccine, and I'm waiting on the second. It should be a couple weeks from now. I have a feeling that that's going to be one of those prerequisites for travel, obviously. But yeah, I do plan on doing more. And that might be another reason I'm like sandbagging the album in a sense where I can, tour on it or something. But yeah, realistically, I released a lot of music on my SoundCloud. And then after I get a bunch of music enough, I think there's enough now for me to just release another compilation album on the rest of the streaming services. But yeah, that I do miss doing like live shows for sure. DJing and producing electronic music stuff is probably my favorite part of musicianship, which is whatever. Rapping, I like it, but it's not something I love. It's a lot more nerve-wracking when everyone's staring at you and you have a microphone in your hand, and like it's everything rises and falls on you. As far as like if you're a DJ, you can kind of you don't have to work as hard. I guess you could say, like, if you screw up, like, it's not like everyone's gonna get super mad at you. So the pressure is a lot less. But yeah, that's just it. It's just I'm just making little one-off songs here and there. Said I got the album that I want to push out, but yeah, hopefully I said that when the Deadmau5 stuff like officially releases, that might up my Q factor a little bit. He's a big computer nerd too, so he kind of gets a lot of the music, which is good.
Awesome. Now, since I'm like a kind of set my ways person, I still write all my songs on Notepad on my Windows machine for whatever reason. I've been doing it since 1999. So why change now? Yeah. I was curious about your process of writing. Like, how many different DAWs have you been through since the beginning, or have you kind of stuck to a couple things?
So early on in my music career, I was doing Scream Tracker and Impulse Tracker, Fast Tracker. Are you familiar with these at all?
I think so.
There was this thing that in the demo scene, if you look these up, like it's pretty crazy. There was a one called Buzz, Just Cola Buzz, that came out that was Windows based, but these were DOS based trackers. Have you ever messed with NSF files, like the Nintendo sound files?
Yeah.
So you're basically programming music like in this DOS interface, and like you could use samples, and there was portmanteaus and like pitch slides and everything, but you would code this stuff in like a text edit type thing. It was like programming music. So yeah, Scream Tracker and Impulse Tracker were big ones I used, and then Buzz. But then I was using Reason for a little while. And then I started using Pro Tools to track vocals and Ableton. And ever since, like, I've pretty much been on Ableton for the last 10 years or 12 years or something. I started tracking all my vocals in Ableton as well. So yeah, Ableton has been the thing. But same as you, that I never really was into the notebook thing. Like, I hated, if I'd hate this line, I'd have to like erase it or, cross it out or something. So with computers, yeah, like sometimes I'll start in the middle of a song. I'll start writing, like what I know is in the middle, and then I can just copy, paste, move, da 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 da. So the workflow, yeah, I'm the same way in text edit on Mac has been my probably way to do things for a while. But yeah, that's it. Just DAW wise, everything now is just in Ableton, and the lyrics still get done in text edit, which is
that's great. No, and interesting enough that I feel like the majority of the people that move to Ableton stay there. Oh, whereas I'm still using like FL Studio from 2004 to do all processing and beats and stuff, and then I use Reaper for vocals, but yeah, I don't know.
So Decepticon, who like he did the beat for Link, he's done a lot of hits, produced for me, but his whole thing is Ableton, or his whole thing is FL Studio, and then Amplitude Problem and his son, they did a lot of the tracks on the Introducing Neals album, but they're in Reason, and so I'm in Ableton, like, and so we just send stems to each other a lot of times, but I found that DAWs are just, I mean, they all do pretty much the same thing. It's just a matter of like what works with your workflow. So honestly, like George R.R. Martin, the guy that writes Game of Thrones, he like uses this. It's like, it's not Lotus 1-2-3, but it's like some word processor for DOS that he's just been using since it started. And he's not WordStar, I think it is, but he's not going to change because it just works for his workflow. Some people, like in VI, they're just use VI to do everything. So I wouldn't be ashamed of 2004 FL Studio. If it works for you, that's all that really matters. You're fine.
I was waiting for this conversation to become so unapologetically dorky that like no one is watching this video anymore at this point.
They're sleeping. Yeah.
Very happy. Yeah, I look forward to new music. I wanted to thank you for joining me today. And yeah, if you haven't checked out YTCracker, make sure to listen to some tracks.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.